This is Center Stage, putting lawyers in the spotlight by highlighting attorneys and other industry experts to help take your law firm to the next level.
Hey everyone, Marc from Spotlight Branding here, and I am with my very good friend, longtime client, and entrepreneur in so many ways, Brett Trembly. Brett, welcome to the show.
Marc, let's try to make a good show because we're so comfortable with each other. We can't be too relaxed here because we've known each other too long.
Just a casual conversation between friends that hopefully everyone out there will enjoy listening to. No, but in all seriousness, I think this is going to be a great show. The really quick version for everyone is that Brett has built a 7-figure law firm and has since built a very successful, maybe even more successful, I don't know, a staffing agency that focuses on virtual assistants and virtual staff. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, because I think this is a potential game changer for law firms out there if they really learn how to use virtual staff. Not only is it more efficient, it's more cost effective. And I mean, Brett, you've basically built an entire agency focused on virtual staff really for law firms, right? Because that's your background.
Yeah, so we focus on law firms, as they say, niches bring riches, and me and my co-founder are lawyers, so we speak the language. We know the ins and outs of running a law firm. As you mentioned, my law firm is, plenty big, and so I've built it from just me, myself, and Irene, and now we're 10 attorneys. We've got a ton of virtual assistants ourselves now, and what we're doing is focusing on, and we have non-lawyer clients, of course, because there's so much crossover. Service business is a service business, but we are really passionate about helping lawyers delegate their way to freedom.
So let's start here, because this conversation would have started off differently, I think, a year and a half ago, pre-COVID, but with the amount of businesses and roles and companies that are exploring more remote opportunities, can you kind of differentiate for us what Get Staffed Up does in terms of providing virtual staff versus, because it's not the same as just saying, okay, let's make your employees remote, right? I mean, there's some nuances that are different. And so can you just kind of compare and contrast the difference between remote employees versus what you guys provide so that sets up the rest of our conversation?
For sure. Thank you for asking that. So let's say you have a full-time, even a part-time employee, and you're in, I don't know, Nashville, right? And then COVID hit. So that employee works from home, but they're still a full-time employee. That is different than when you hire a project-based person and they're not a remote employee. They're just, like you're just hiring someone to do work. And in the lawyer world, like a lawyer is of counsel, right? So there's a difference between being of counsel or a lawyer that you give project-based work to, they bill you and then you bill
like contract work, right?
Contractor, exactly. And so many people use virtual assistant the wrong way. I know one guy said he has 30 virtual assistants. Like, no, he doesn't. This
I know that guy. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
This marketing guy, you probably do. He has contractors that he uses to get projects done. All right. Totally different. Now, there's also a huge differentiator between domestic-based employees, whether they're remote or in-house, right? Whether you now have them working from home or somewhere else, and international employees. So what we do is we find full-time only. We don't do part-time and we don't do project-based. And websites like Fiverr and Upwork, you can still find good design work, for projects here and there. In fact, we still use it. Sometimes it's helpful. But having a full-time person who works for your law firm, they just happen to be legally employed by Get Staffed Up. So we shield the lawyer from the payroll and all the HR stuff and the liability. We go and recruit amazing people. And we're at the point, Marc, we're having 250,000 people on average, basically, when you protract it out, apply to work for us in Latin America and South Africa. So we filter. We find the best of the best, put them in front of you. You say yes or no until you find someone you like. And that person is now a full-time 40-hour-a-week team member. And for all intents and purposes, they work for you. They're just not legally an employee, but you should look at them and treat them as if they're a full part of your team. So if I missed any part of what we do compared, because there are other virtual assistant companies, most of them are out of the Philippines. And then people are like, well, I need 10 hours a week and I need 20 hours a week. And all the things that get in the way of real growth, which is having full-time people dedicated and loyal to you.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing. It's not like this is a new concept. I mean, I think people generally understand the premise here. I think that a couple of things, because, you know, we actually work with Get Staffed Up. So like Spotlight Branding actually has a Get Staffed Up employee right now. Like we have, you know, you guys call them VAs, virtual assistants. And I think we're about to hire a second. I think that might be in the works. So like I have firsthand experience with this, so I feel like I can speak to it a little bit. But I mean, you know, I think that what happens is a lot of people just they have questions. They have questions about, does the cost make sense? They have questions about what exactly is the kind of work this person can do and can't do. I think people have questions about, oh, wait a second, if they're offshore, if they're not in the United States, can they really do X, Y, and Z? How can I? And I think people, of course, have questions about payroll and things like that. And that last box, obviously, you guys check for them. I think that's what's really important that people understand. One of my favorite things is, and this might not be the best comparison, but I almost look at it as like you're leasing out that employee to us. But the difference is we actually got to pick that person, right? So it isn't like we have to just take whoever you give us. And so I really, really like that, that we're kind of involved in the process. But I mean, let's tackle a lot of those stigmas or those questions, because again, I think that it's not that this concept is innovative. I mean, I think frankly, I hope it's okay for me to say, I think you guys just do it really well. And you've also done a really good job of identifying the places that law firms and really like white collar professional practices, right? Financial firms, maybe even like where those types of businesses could really benefit from a virtual assistant. I think you guys have identified that well. You know, is that fair?
It is fair. It's not a new concept. It's just that we've kind of pushed it and are convincing law firms to apply this. Big companies and people that need full-time IT and developers, they've been using people out of India, for example, forever, full-time, right? And then a lot of people use fractional help out of the Philippines. We're kind of saying that you have positions in your law firm that you're not staffing, or that you're overpaying people or hiring people that are unreliable. So you have a lot of high turnover, because these are entry-level positions. We're not staffing lawyers. We're not staffing yet. If we ever figure this part out, you know, paralegals. We're staffing the entry-level admin positions.
Yeah, let's dive into that more, actually. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I think that's what everyone wants to know is, okay, what exactly are some of the tasks or the roles, you know, job descriptions? I mean, let's like dive into that and really take that apart. And we'll talk about pricing and we'll talk about some other obstacles. I know people want to know about, like, well, wait a second, how does it affect me if they're international? But I mean, let's first start off by tackling what are the kinds of tasks that a VA could do, a virtual assistant could do.
So I've been speaking about this a lot lately, and I love talking about this. So first of all, you can do tasks or you can do traditional positions, or both. If you don't have an assistant, okay, this is not my line, but I'm stealing it because it's a fact. If you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. So many human beings, but especially lawyers, spend their time checking their own email. 30 years ago, did the lawyer walk out to the mail, grab the mail, walk back in, open it, sort it? No, there was always a secretary or someone else who saved you time by doing that for you, right? The amount of time that all of us just spend on email and waste on email is just mind-boggling. So getting a personal assistant, or you call them an executive assistant, I don't care what you call them, that will do your email, that will take messages, that will manage your calendar, that will set up your Zoom meetings, that will set up your lunches. I mean, we've got, like, on our website, you know, resources, 50 examples of things to delegate to your personal assistant, right? I didn't memorize all 50, but I've never met one person that can't fill up 40 hours a week with a personal assistant. I now have 2 personal assistants. Hold
on, real quick. I mean, I think that's actually a great point, though. I mean, I think that it's real easy to go, all right, managing my calendar, managing my email, that's not going to take 40 hours. But I think that we're not coming close to really identifying all of the types of things that a true assistant could take off of your own plate, right? Yeah. We haven't even gotten into some of the other things. I know that your people can do, like back office work, marketing work, even if you hire the right person. So I'm really excited to talk about all of that. But I mean, dude, even I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, Spotlight Branding has a virtual assistant, but and listen, the truth is I've got someone in my firm, in my business, that does some of that for me in-house.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about if I hired a virtual person, which, teaser would be cheaper. Like that's where we're going with all of this, right? Why entertain all of this, right? Because it's significantly more affordable.
I had an in-person personal assistant for a long time before I even knew about offshore, and made me way more productive. So if you just, a lot of people say, oh, I need someone in person. Most people don't really. They're just saying that because they haven't thought through how easy it is to have a virtual. But who cares? If you want someone in person, knock yourself out. There are, I mean, honestly, Marc, just with your calendar, like I've got at least 6 meetings every day, right? And I'm coordinating. I have links. I have 2 separate emails. That alone is a full-time position. Plus all my tasks and to-dos, I'm able to hand over, email this person, set this up, make sure this is done. Probably 10 tasks per day that are done without a lot of my time and attention, because someone else is, booking flights, doing research, getting me answers. I delegate almost everything. And when I find myself doing something, I'm thinking, I didn't think this through and I didn't delegate like I should have, right? I kind of got lazy. I just did it myself.
No, that's almost a great attitude to have. Like if you have this person kind of in your repertoire, it's almost like it'd be better to give them something and let them fail at it, or let them, and go, okay, I guess I should do that myself, or go, okay, here's how I can, coach them up. And we're not talking about doing the legal work, obviously, right? But that's a good point. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about how often, like, I think to myself, oh, I need to do some research on something, or go get some, things I could just Google, things that I want to know more about. And yeah, you could easily just have your assistant look into that,
Look, I'll give you another example. You know how long it takes to go on Uber Eats and to look up the prices and to decide, blah, blah, blah. You could just send a quick text, hey, I want lunch at 12, and you've already given 5 options or 10 options, and lunch will just show up at 12 if you thought it through and you spend 10 seconds delegating that, right?
Yeah.
Plus a little bit of time setting up the parameters of what you like on certain days.
Let's take a quick tangent. And actually, on that note, I mean, again, I want to come back to some other things they can do, because I know there's some law firm specific stuff, there's some marketing specific stuff, and that kind of goes to the point you were mentioning about, you can hire for tasks, or you can hire for like traditional positions.
Yeah.
But real quick, let's take a quick tangent. And how do I communicate with my VA? Because you were just bringing up like, shoot him a quick text and tell him to, order me lunch. I think that's one thing people would like to know a little more about. What's the traditional way that your clients are communicating daily with their VA?
I wish I knew what our clients were doing. What we suggest they do is stay away from email as much as possible, right? But to use WhatsApp, to use GChat on your phone, to use Slack, to use Zoom messaging, whatever messaging system that you need, right? Because we've all kind of started to learn, thanks to Slack over the past few years, if you create groups, we have a 3-person chat, me and my 2 personal assistants, and that's basically like all day long, we're just putting what's next, what's this, has this been done? And that's all through a system called Click, which through Zoho, not over email. But if you're going to use email's fine too, it's just that hopefully they're kind of managed.
One thing that we did, and I imagine this is kind of across the board, is that you want to, this is somebody working 40 hours a week, right? So it's not, and typically they're working aligned with your office hours, right?
Correct. During your hours.
Right. So I think the key there, and this is what I've always appreciated is, I think the one thing you lose out when someone's not in person is you just can't go have that face-to-face conversation. Well, one silver lining of Zoom and all of that really blowing up over the last year or so is it's a lot more common now to have video calls. And so one thing we do with our virtual assistant at Spotlight Branding is sometimes when I have a question, and instead of actually messaging, I'll just push the video call button, right? And it'll just ring her real quick. And she is expected to be at her desk just as 100%. Often as any employee in the office would be expected to be at their desk, right?
100%. Like the amount of times that I do a quick Zoom with somebody, one of my virtual assistants or someone else in the office is so many times throughout the day. Now, again, I don't have mine open so that I can't get interrupted. I do this thing called office hours for that. But when I need one of my assistants, same thing. If I want to talk to them, I click Zoom and they answer. And so that's a really good point, because one of the fault or drawbacks of the 4-hour work week is, Tim Ferriss talking about work getting done while he's sleeping. But if you need someone, you got to wait 12 hours to get an answer, right? Because you got to go to sleep and wait till they start working. We're talking about someone who's at your beck and call because they work during your working hours.
I love it. All right. So we touched a little bit on this idea of personal assistant, executive assistant, really thinking about what can they take off your plate. Let's talk a little bit more about the position-based hires though, because there's some different ones, and this actually affects who you look to hire, right? So talk to us about some of the roles that somebody could fill.
Sure. And I always start with personal assistants, because if the lawyer is like not ready to kind of hire, the first thing to do is to get more stuff off your plate so that you even have time to think about, okay, well, maybe I need these positions, right?
Absolutely.
Legal receptionist, we'll start there. Our phones are answered by a really nice sounding, lovely, always happy to hear from you person in Mexico, and nobody knows she's in Mexico, right? Like our virtual assistants have to have a very, very light accent to even get through the process. So all our phones, our callbacks are done by her.
So you've delegated, so your entire reception phone experience is being done offshore,
correct,
but by somebody who is 40 hours a week, fully yours.
Fully ours. And they have a VoIP phone. So they say, okay, hold on, let me patch you through to Mr. Trembly's assistant. Pound, whatever. And it's just as fast as it would be anyway. And by the way, the virtual assistant they patch through is also offshore, but neither here nor there. If they need to get to the paralegal or the lawyer, it's the same thing. And on the intake process, I get so frustrated. People are like, well, I hired, Smith AI and all these people. It's like, you want your phone to be answered by the same person every time, because they know how to say your name. They're going to know your schedule, and they're not, they're going to become a friendly, familiar voice. I also use companies like that. The one that we happen to use is called Lex Reception, but it's for after hours and overflow, just in case. But
I like that. And I think, it's understandable early on in your firm.
It is, except people know, sorry to cut you off, but people know when it's an answering service. They
100%
know that.
Oh, I'm not advocating for it. I'm putting my own spin to say, I think that you want to move to bringing it in-house as soon as it's feasible and as soon as you can.
Right. But here's why I'm bullish on this, is because with the amount of money that most people are paying these reception companies, it's nearly the same as having 40 hours a week. So now guess what you got? You got a full-time receptionist and your full-time executive assistant. Because if they're really not that busy, well, now they have somebody doing their email, their calendar, and everything else, and answering the phones, just like you would in a regular law office with your first hire. Like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you hired one person.
Yeah.
That person answered the phones and they did all of your admin stuff for you.
Well, I was going to say, couldn't you potentially even, every law office is a little bit different, but couldn't you potentially even have this legal receptionist kind of manage like the calendars and appointments for early consults, all of that stuff?
Early on, that's what you would do anyway, right? Like you would hire that person, but to find that person in the US, unless you get lucky, find like someone who's retired and bored, or somebody who frankly doesn't have a lot of ambition, because right now it's so hard to find people who want to work, right? Like the labor shortage is insane right now. But to pay someone $10 an hour, you can't expect that person, if you're honest with yourself, to work for you their whole lives for $10 an hour. Like nobody's put on this earth to just make Marc, live a wonderful life, or to make Brett live a wonderful life, right? So that's why you have all this turnover. So if you take this position and you go offshore with it, now you have your first hire. It's not very expensive, and you're going to have a ton of work done. And you and I have talked about this, but that's where my firm finally took off, was I hired my first do everything person back in 2014. And I finally got out of my way and started growing the firm.
So, what like ballpark, what is like an assistant or a legal receptionist cost as a VA?
$1,850 a month, flat fee, all in. Bilinguals, $1,950, and then marketing is a little more expensive. But basically, for less than $24,000 a year, you're gonna have a ton of time put back on your plate. Your phone's answered, all kinds of things.
Which really isn't really that much more than $10 an hour anyway, right? Just doing some real rough math.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more,
but $10 and like 80 cents or something.
But I think here's what's really awesome to think about is that for these people, that is an amazing wage based on the cost of living of where they are. I mean, one of the things, I'll just be real with you guys for a second that are listening. I mean, I definitely at first had to wrestle with this question of like, I don't even know what the right word is, man, but it's like, am I somehow doing something wrong here? Or not even wrong, but like I'm taking a job out of the United States and going offshore with it. So I've got some feelings there, and I'm doing it because I'm chasing like saving a buck. And, I'll just share two things from that have really stuck with me. One is like, sure, when you word it as like saving a buck, that makes it sound like I'm just all about the bottom line or something, right? But I mean, the real truth is that I have a fiduciary responsibility to my business to make sure that we're being smart with our money. So at least considering the opportunity to do something at a lesser cost, just makes sense. But the big one that really was a game changer for me was realizing that I'm actually like making somebody's life so much better because, I don't know the exact math on this, but would it be fair to say that, I don't know how to word this, but like if you were to hire someone in the States and pay them this much, and you were to hire someone overseas and they're going to get paid less, like that person overseas for the wage they're getting, that's almost even better.
Yeah.
A better wage for them than the wage would have been if you hired the local person.
Yeah. It's called labor arbitrage. So what you're doing is we're paying people above the median salary. And again, the median for someone who's been working 30 years or 1 day, from day one, the people that work for us are making above the median salary for where they live. So they're already starting at a really good rate. And then over time we give raises, etc. So, and I appreciate you saying that, because we have had people say, in fact, I was invited on a podcast. This only happened one time. And the lady was like, I'm not comfortable with this. And first of all, I am fine with people's views. It's just that her reasoning was so poor. And I think that shows up in a lot of other places in her business and her podcast and whatnot.
What would she think of the guy that has 30 assistants?
Well, a lot of our clients, one of our clients has more than 20 people through us. But let me explain. I think it's actually, I've thought about this a lot, of course. But first of all, hiring someone here and treating them poorly because you can't make a profit, and you try to work them more than 40 hours a week, but you want to pay them $10 an hour, and you have this attitude of expectation, like I can't find anyone who wants to work hard these days. Yeah, because they're making $10 an hour. I think it's a disservice. The high paying jobs is what needs to stay here in the US, first of all. Second of all, we've changed so many lives through Get Staffed Up. I never thought about that, but it is incredibly rewarding to see us hire someone and then they can start a family or they get their own apartment.
Yeah.
What we're doing, the third point, is helping the global economy. I have not heard one single policy from anyone that I've ever met that's more effective than providing jobs in other countries so that a bunch of people don't need to rush here and cause, the crisis that we're seeing at the border. So imagine that as we turn into a more global economy, I hope it's not going to have the same immigration impact. And that's another realization that I had. It's like, wait a minute, we're helping people, like you said, all over the world. We're helping lawyers here do better and have a margin, because to be a business owner with no margin and you're constantly working to pay other people is, they talk about in profit first. It's stressful. It causes a pit in your stomach. It's just not fun. It sucks.
Dude, I mean, look, you and I both had the pleasure of being involved with a lot of different like business groups where we've met other successful entrepreneurs. And I feel very comfortable in saying the following, that if you were to actually poll most business owners on their preferences around salaries and what they pay their staff, I think the large majority would actually tell you that their strong preference would be to be able to pay their team like better than whatever the average or median would be. Very few, I shouldn't say no, but very few business owners I think set out to be like, my goal is to be one of the lowest paying firm. Shoot, I don't think anyone sets out to be like, my goal is to be average. I mean, I think deep down inside, like true entrepreneurs at heart that, do take some pride in knowing that we're creating jobs and we're hopefully giving someone a job they can be proud of. And we're hopefully giving someone income that enables them to live the life they want for themselves. And so like hiring, I'm going to get kind of altruistic for a second, but like hiring a virtual assistant is an opportunity to actually do that, because it's so much more affordable for me to pay them an amazing wage. And here's the real kicker. I'm sure you've thought about this, but we haven't talked about it. And I've actually set this vision for my Spotlight branding team. They all know this. I said, guys, if we figure out how to really build an amazing company that runs partially on full-time in-house employees and partially on full-time virtual assistants, then what that allows me to do is also explore paying even better wages to my in-house staff.
Exactly.
Because they're supported by lower paid staff. But I say lower paid with quotations for those of you that aren't on video right now, because those lower wages that I'm giving are actually amazing wages of those people. So anyway, I'll get off my high horse. I just think there's a really amazing vision here. I promise I'm not being paid to say it, but it allows me to a deep level to actually be more fulfilled, because I think it allows me to create better wages across the board. Right. And so that's kind of a goal for us as a company, to be able to do that for everyone, offshore and in-house.
100% true. When you're being honest with yourself, it's 100% true. And I'll finish by saying that we have never met someone who said, I got 10 people, I want to fire them all and hire 10 people through you. That's never happened. You know what people are actually doing is they're filling the positions that basically nobody's in, right? So, because if you don't have an assistant, you are one. So you're acting as your own assistant, you're acting as your own secretary, you're acting as your own receptionist, your own intake coordinator. We can get into some of those positions now. So then you're finally hiring and filling those positions, and you otherwise would have just said, I'm going to work late. I'm not going to see my family. I don't have the money, so I'm just going to keep being miserable. That's the problem we're solving, not replacing jobs. So,
great point.
Getting into again, intake coordinator. You gotta train these people yourself. By the way, it's not like we're an outsourced company. Like, hey, they got a bunch of salespeople that come in day one and know what they're doing. That's not the case. We're finding raw talent, energetic, well-spoken.
Yeah, they're going to get plugged into whatever your firm's existing processes and systems are for that.
Correct. Right. So legal secretary or legal assistant, depending on what you call it. Happiness coordinator, someone that's just a client concierge that takes care of your clients. Some of the other ones we do, just like file processing for a bankruptcy or for real estate firms. Basically any other admin. Billing coordinators. We're starting to talk more about billing coordinators. We've got at Trembly Law Firm, we have 2 people who are running invoices, getting them out on time, communicating with clients. So they're improving the client experience and we're getting paid faster. For some reason, doing invoicing is like one of the things that lawyers hate doing, and sending invoice. It's burdensome, it's painful, it's not fun, right? So billing coordinators is a huge one. Again, billing clerks, somebody to just enter all of your attorneys and paralegals' time. We have, like if you have Clio, and everyone knows Clio, right? And you got to go into the matter, type it in, let it pop up, put in the time, do the whole description. That's a lot of your day, and it gets annoying. So we have an Excel spreadsheet. It's shared. Name, quick description, time, boom, you're done. At the end of the day, it's saved, right? And then the next morning, someone else inputs all your time into, we don't use Clio, but the system, right? So that's another way to make your people have a better experience and not give them crappy tasks that are just, monotonous, and to have that done for you. Every one of our partners at the firm has a personal executive assistant. Our office manager has an executive assistant. You'd be amazed at how much more you can get out of one person. Instead of hiring another $60,000 a year office manager, you give them an $1,850 a month personal assistant, and holy cow, you almost.
Well, I don't want to gloss over that real quick. I remember you telling me that for the first time. I thought it was really neat. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that you assign a full-time VA, one for each staff. You could hire someone, and that one VA could manage the emails for all of your lawyers, or all of your, like, you could have one person who just their email management for 3, 4, 5, 6 people, and what a burden that you just freed up for your leadership team or your legal team.
Right. So, and then to finish off with some of the marketing stuff. So at the Trembly Law, of course, we still use Spotlight branding, have been for years. What we do is we have a full-time in-house video coordinator. So all she does is chop up my videos and then put out a ton of social media content.
But you say but not actually in-house. This is a VA.
It's a VA. Sorry. I want people to think of them as full-time and in-house and their employees and their team members, right? We have a full-time VA through Get Staffed Up offshore.
Who just does video editing.
Just video editing, because like I have a podcast and I shoot videos on my phone and we send them to clients and we put it on social media.
And then you've also, you've had some help in the past with VAs actually reaching out to try to get you on podcasts and stuff, right?
Yep. That's part of what you can give a marketing assistant. Graphic design. A lot of people are hiring full-time graphic designers instead of using kind of like Upwork, because it depends on how much design work. But let's say you want to send nicer looking emails. Let's say you constantly do events. Maybe you have a podcast and like I show up to my podcast, I click Zoom, I film it, and I leave, and I don't do anything else.
Oh no, dude, there's so much that could be designed at a law firm that I think it's like all of your like information you give clients, packets, worksheets, forms they fill out, like all of that stuff could just be presented in a nicer way, and then you could have a graphic designer just constantly creating like worksheets and free resources.
Every 2 weeks you have a new free resource out. And I'm not just saying this part because you guys do such a good job with content, but content is the one thing that's like, okay, so we've been doing this for almost 18, 19, 20, almost 4 years. And we're only 3.5 years old. So our growth is sometimes I got to pinch myself, but I've met one person in all that time, and she lived in the US for a while, that I would have been comfortable giving actual like content to out of the thousands of people we've met. That's such a hard thing to do if you don't have a legal background. So we don't like, if anyone asks us for that now, we kind of just like, it's not the best.
Well, let's get more specific. We say content. You're going to talk about writing.
Writing.
Yeah. Because when you send a video to that video editor, that's content creation.
Yeah. I mean like legal blog writing, for example.
Yeah. Well, listen, I get that. At Spotlight Branding, we specifically hire people that we think are capable of writing, that. And I think, and
not easy to find for you, even in the US.
What's that?
It's not even easy for you to find those people in the United States.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. So, I mean, I love that. And I mean, the bottom line is that, really, it sounds like the only thing you're not really hiring a VA for at this point in a law firm would be the lawyer or the paralegal. But it sounds like, you can hire someone to do different types of marketing activities. You can hire someone to do, I would lump it all together as admin, but understanding that you can divide that up. There's secretarial, reception, back office,
right.
Intake. You mentioned some specific practice areas like real estate and some others you said, where there bankruptcy, I think you said.
What's another cool one is we're bringing on, there's a book called Giftology, and we're bringing on a full-time giftology coordinator. So their job is going to be to just do gifts for clients year round, 24/7.
The firm's doing this, or Get Staffed Up's doing that?
Get Staffed Up's doing this, yeah.
Okay.
But
so it's important. Hold on a second. Let's come back to that. I don't think people realize that. I mean, Get Staffed Up. This is a really cool point. I mean, it's a business where the large majority of the actual employees of Get Staffed Up are VAs, right?
100%.
I mean, you gloss over that, but I think that's a big deal. I mean, it's a company run by, at this point, a multi-million-dollar company, right? Run by VAs.
We have Marc, we have 90 of our own full-time virtual assistant employees. Like, they are obviously our actual employees, but 90 in-house, not including all of the clients we have and all the people placed with clients. So we've got every director of every department, because we have 8 departments, right? It's a real business with real departments and department meetings. Every director is virtual and started early and was promoted. We've been growing like wildfire. What we have started to do is bring in fractional C-suite level people who are in the US for the most part, but they're like, they show up to weekly meeting and they help out, and they basically save my time and my co-founder's time from having to be at every single department meeting. But yeah, we're 100% in terms of employees. We're virtual, and there's just so much you can do when you open your mind to the concept. And before COVID, we used to have the conversation like, it's okay to hire virtually. And then COVID like wiped out that conversation. Everybody gets it now. So now we say it's okay to hire internationally, not domestically.
You read my mind, because that's what I want to talk about next. And we can kind of come in for a landing from there, unless there's anything you want to add afterwards. But I think there's still people out there, understandably so, right? I mean, this is where we have to kind of be willing to not focus on being PC as much just for the sake of this conversation, right? Because I was there. Like I was the one sitting in the seat entertaining this, going, I'm worried about somebody having too thick of an accent and getting on the phone. I'm worried about someone whose English isn't as good as I need it to be, and that's going to make communicating with my team more difficult, or with clients if they're client facing. So I think there are some obvious, whether they're right or wrong, doesn't matter. There's some obvious concerns. So, I mean, just address those for us, because obviously you guys have tackled that and it's not a problem, but help the listeners understand why they don't need to be asking those same questions.
Yeah. So let's say you get a marketing coordinator who's just gonna spend all day booking, trying to book you speaking gigs, right? Doing like once a month luncheons, figuring out, different networking groups and setting up, just whatever for your marketing. First of all, that person doesn't need to speak great English. They're not on the phone that much. But it's still a requirement for us just on the marketing side. If somebody's really talented at something in marketing, like, let's not focus on the language so much. Let's focus on how great of a job, they're going to do for you. But all other admin positions, because we do have a clerical level, which is, we used to hire early on out of the Philippines, and that's just like paper processing. But everybody who's client facing or who can be client facing has to speak really good English. Is there some accent? Yes, sometimes. But I know lawyers themselves in very traditional, I'm a white dude, I can say this, like white areas that have heavy accents that have, done very well. It's like people sometimes assume without asking that their clients are going to be like, well, who's answering the phone? We honestly, we've never seen that. But if that is your concern, have a Zoom call with our sales.
No, wait. If it is your concern, what's the phone number for the Trembly Law Firm? Because they.
Right. 305-431-5678. But even better, jump on Zoom with our freedom team. We don't call it a sales team. It gets staffed up. We call it a freedom team. People tell me how blown away they are on those sales calls with just how professional and well spoken. It's like, yes, this is the limitation part. It's not our fault because I was this way 4 years ago. We've just never stopped to think about it. So they teach English in most countries now, starting in kindergarten. You for like 40 years, all these countries have been learning English. Just like in any society or any group of people, there's high achievers, there's people who work hard, there's people who are honest and loyal. Let's go find the best of the best. Let's go find those people who you would pay here $100 grand, but they just happen to live somewhere else and their economy is not so good, right? And let's pay them really well and have them benefit us.
I love it. I agree completely. And I think, one of the things you told me back at the beginning when we were exploring this for ourselves is, you're going to cater the hire to whatever it is we need. So if a lesser accent is important, that's part of what you'll look for. If grammar is really important, like writing in English is really important, you'll look for that, In my video person, I didn't care how they wrote.
Yeah.
It's kind of an internal joke. There's a little, I remember telling at the beginning, hey, when you message me something incorrect text-wise, can I always just correct you back? And she's like, yeah, that's how I'll learn. But and to y'all's defense, like something you did not test in the hiring process, grammar. It was we didn't care, right? Her job was to put video content together that we sent her, and talking to her was great, right? It was just written was not perfect, but that's okay. We didn't need that, but you can, but I know if we do need that in a different role, you'll find that.
Look, this may be an indictment of where I grew up and went to school, but I have friends who graduated college who don't write that well, first of all. Second of all, it's like there's a lady one time, we send out our emails, right? Our email list is pretty big at this point. Somebody wrote back one time, well, if this is how you present yourselves, then why would I ever want to work with you? And she pointed to the smallest little grammatical error. And I'm like, the part of me that wants to be right, which I've worked on in my life, wanted to send her back and like, this is why your dog's on your website and you will always just work for yourself and your business will own you. Like, that's what I wanted to tell her. I didn't respond. I just let it go. But like, that's the limiting factor. I know people, on the other hand, with multi-million dollar businesses that when they put things out, there's quite a few grammatical errors. And guess what? People get over it. They learn. And
it's true. You ever, I don't want to admit how much time I've spent on TikTok lately, but the amount of grammatical things that are wrong.
Guess what?
And people's like at this point, because like captions are just automated, right? And like people aren't even correcting the captions, right? Like the caption will just be obviously not what they said at all. And it's but no, you're right. I mean, times are changing, as they say, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Is there anything else? I know we're going to end with, kind of what people can do next. And we do have kind of a special link and discount and all that exciting stuff. But is there anything else you kind of wanted to share or talk about?
No, man. You and I didn't plan what we're going to talk about, but you really set it up to make sure that people knew what we were doing, which was different. And
I get you, man. I get you.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. Look, what I want to tell people is we talk about delegating your way to freedom. So it started out with me. I really enjoy when someone like I was, in 2014, I guess, 7 years ago, when they couldn't pull the trigger, couldn't hire, they finally did. And I see them grow. That feels nice. But now we have a program to get you, when you get one, we have incentives to get to 5 and then to 10, because truly delegating your way to freedom is creating a virtual team, not just having a virtual assistant. And seeing that kind of change in a lot of our clients and seeing how much better and more time. I mean, one of our clients had a presentation. He said he saved $200,000 last year by working with us. Well, what do you think he did with that money? He put it back into his economy. His wife was probably a lot less stressed, bought things for his kids. Like, there's just so many benefits from running a business that doesn't cause you more stress than what money you make from it. And at the end of the day, these people are wonderful, and you just also happen to save a lot of money.
Love it. All right. So for people that want to know more, we got a special link, right? And so I think it's getstaffedup.com/spotlight.
Yep.
As in Spotlight Branding, my company. But why should they go to getstaffedup.com/spotlight versus just the main website? Well, tell them why, Brett.
Because you asked me to do something nice for your listeners. And so we put together a discount. So if they go through that link, then we'll know they came through you, and they'll get a $500 discount off their startup fee. I mentioned the price of $1,850 on average per month. And again, there's no withholding, there's no taxes. It's just all in $1,850 per month. We do have a startup fee, which means you're committed, and it also, it puts your stake in the game. That's usually $1,750. So we're going to give you $500 off of that.
Love it. Love it. So that's getstaffedup.com/spotlight. And look, I just want to say as we wrap up, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about how your company does VAs. And what I hope, though, is that everyone listening, wherever you are on the spectrum of considering this as an option for your firm, I just hope we move that needle for you. Do I personally think if you're going to hire a VA, you should use Get Staffed Up? Yes, I do. I've known Brett for a while, and I think that Brett tends to do businesses better than a lot of people. But I do want to be clear that if nothing else, we hope this moved the needle for you, whether you use Get Staffed Up or something else. That's fine too. Yep. But this is going to be something that could make a huge difference in your practice, a huge difference in the lives of the people you employ, both the current ones and the future ones you might employ, through a VA program. So I just hope for everyone that this moved the needle for them. I know we focus on Get Staffed Up a lot, but I just hope that some people were inspired and decided to give this a shot. Any final parting thoughts from you?
No, man, I appreciate your time. And like a famous commercial where I grew up used to say, if you don't get help from us, please get help somewhere. Delegate your way to freedom. Don't be your own assistant. I don't care who you use. Hire them domestically, hire them internationally. Use us, use another company. Dang it, you will be such a happier person when you start delegating and stop trying to do everything yourself. You didn't go to law school to be miserable.
I love it. Well, it's funny. Usually we end the episode saying, if you could give one piece of advice to lawyers, anything at all, what would it be? But I think you just said it, man. Delegate your way to freedom.
Yep.
Right. I completely agree. You don't have to do everything, believe it or not. So, all right. Always a pleasure, man. I appreciate it. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me, Marc.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/center stage.